So, the most popular fans over on Amazon, the Dreo fans. I was very curious about these, and you guys also requested them multiple times over the years, so here they are. Let's first take a look at the Dreo pedestal fan. This fan really reminds me of the Duke's Whisper or Flex models and is also priced similarly. I must say, the sound this fan produces is really soothing. Like sure, there will be more noise the higher the setting, but it's just designed well and you can hear that. It's making the minimum amount of noise, so to say. Just a few days ago, I reviewed the Shark Turbo Blade premium priced fan, and my biggest critique was that it lacks a display. Well, sure enough, here it has touch-sensitive buttons and above that, a nice display to showcase what setting is on and what mode is active. Very nice and clear display too, with big numbers, so it's easily readable. You can really notice that this is probably the most expensive part of the fan though, as it sort of lacks refinement on other parts. It does not feature a magnet for the remote, but just a clip-on holder. This works on most spots on the pole though, so you can position it wherever you want. If you are also tired of sugar-coated reviews, hit subscribe as it helps me out a ton and I can keep doing this. You have to screw in the pole, but the part which gets screwed in is a metal tube, which sort of destroys its design, I think. I'm not a big fan of how it looks in that spot. It's also where you adjust the fan's height. The metal tube extends slightly to raise it, but even at its lowest setting, a bit of the metal tube remains visible. At its lowest setting, it's 90 centimeters or about 35.4 inches tall, and at its tallest, it reaches 100 centimeters or around 39.4 inches. Now, like I said, you can control it via touch buttons on the pole, as you can adjust the speed, which goes from 1 to 8, plus the turbo setting, so pretty much 9 speeds. You can adjust the mode too, but only to regular, automatic, and turbo. Now, regular is just whatever speed you have it on constantly. Automatic is based on the temperature in the room it's in, so it will automatically cycle to whatever speed it thinks it's appropriate for the temperature inside. And finally, the turbo mode is that speed 9 we talked about, but just instantly. Below that, the timer, which you can set from 1 to 8 hours, and then the vertical and horizontal oscillation modes. What's especially nice here is that both are automatic, so it moves both vertically and horizontally on its own, which is great for circulating air evenly throughout the room. But since this is a smart fan, there are also some settings hidden inside the app controls. And even the remote does not feature them, as that has basically the same controls as the fan itself. And I must say, I really appreciate that the controls are both on the fan itself, but also on the remote, which is another critique I had about the Shark Turbo Blade. Inside of the app, which by the way was super easy to set up, you'll find an awesome UI, which looks a lot like iOS itself, where you can set up the modes, speed, pedal sound on or off, display auto off settings, child lock, which is also great, oscillation settings, which include setting up custom angles, both symmetric but also asymmetric, where, for example, you can let it oscillate in only one direction. Finally, the natural mode, which is also available from here. And if you're familiar with that, it basically cycles between harder and gentler gusts of wind, so to say, to mimic nature. Here, it's also done fantastically. Now, looking at its design, that fake wood plastic type of material wouldn't be my first choice, and on the pictures, it looked way nicer too. It gives a nice contrast though, but I think I'd really appreciate another material there. What's really nice is that the cage's front creates a subtle 3D effect, since it's larger than the fan head. A thoughtful design touch that adds to its visual appeal. The actual fan blades are blue, which also creates a nice contrast. The fan has a nice weighty base, so it's really stable. Now, some feedback points from me would be to put a magnet in the pole so that you can hang up the remote that way. And the power cable really needs to be put lower, since now it's really noticeable. Or at least give me some options of doing a bit of cable management there. A really nice feature of this fan is that it remembers the last setting it was on, which is great. Now, the other very popular fan they sell is this one, the Dreo Smart Silent Tower Fan. This is definitely a simpler fan though, but let's go over what it does and does not have. It's a smart fan too, just like its bigger brother. The app setup process is also really easy. Works very smooth and looks fantastic too. And once again, the UI is also really nice. So what do I mean with simpler? Well, it only has 4 speeds instead of the 8, and it only features horizontal oscillation, obviously. As for the modes, it features exactly the same modes here too though, and that includes the natural mode, though I would have to say the natural mode here feels less dynamic and more linear in its airflow pattern. It doesn't quite feel natural. More like a feature they wanted to include on a budget, but couldn't fully deliver on. That said, it's still a big improvement over the Philips Series 2000 fan I reviewed recently. Still, when it comes to the natural mode specifically, the pedestal fan performs noticeably better than this one. What I dislike most about this fan though is the fact that it starts on 2.5 meters per second on speed 1. And that's a statistic that fans usually have on higher settings. So there is no 1 meter per second, which would be a calm breeze. You can compare the stats with these on my other videos. So if you are curious about the stats for these two, they are on screen now. The assembly is really easy on this one too, no bolt even, you only have to click it in and you're done. On the backside, it does have a spot to carry the fan, and below that a slot for the remote, which isn't all that nice to be honest, as it still sticks out and just falls out when angled. The remote itself is really nice though, features pretty much the same buttons as the other one without the vertical oscillation. And it also doesn't feel cheaply made at all. The range on all of the remotes is amazing, really like 7 meters, and it's no issue, but only if you angle it directly at the fans. Move them slightly to the right or anything in between and it does not work any longer. The design of the tower fan is really nice, especially for a tower fan, which usually look a little less modern or boring, but here it's got nice looks and it will fit in most homes. And so without wasting any more of your time, I'll leave you with how they sound so you can decide for yourself. Thank you for watching, and the links are in the description for if you're interested.